The rain poured over the neon-lit streets of New Haven, one of the few intergalactic hubs on Earth. The bustling metropolis was a melting pot of species, some from planets light years away, each arriving with tales and talents. And while most of these travelers had pockets lined with credits, not everyone was so fortunate. Cara, a human waitress at the local diner, had grown accustomed to seeing all kinds of folks. A young woman in her mid-20s, she was known around town not only for her warm smile, but for her kindness, a rarity in a city as tough as New Haven. She worked double shifts, her energy always upbeat despite the long hours and meager pay. One rainy night, 3 scruffy-looking alien teens entered the diner. They looked thin, with coats tattered and worn. Their alien features, angular, with bioluminescent markings that flickered with emotion, were gaunt, and they hovered nervously by the entrance, unsure whether they were welcome. Cara spotted them instantly. She waved them over with a gentle smile. "Come on in, don't worry," she called, her voice comforting. "It's warm in here." The teenagers exchanged glances, uncertain. Finally, they slid into a booth near the window, glancing around awkwardly. She approached them with a menu, but they shifted uncomfortably, barely able to make eye contact. We can't pay," one of them mumbled, his glow dimming with shame. Cara smiled, setting the menu down anyway. "That's okay. I'll get you some food." Every night they came back. She'd slip them some food, never too much, just enough to sustain them. At first, they were reluctant, only accepting scraps. But Cara could see they needed the food. As weeks turned into months, she learned that they were refugees, survivors of a brutal galactic conflict. Their homeworld was gone, and they had no one left. Through hushed conversations, she discovered their names: Trick, Rayla, and Vin. They were cautious at first, reluctant to share much. But her warmth and generosity broke down their barriers, and soon they were laughing together, sharing stories. Cara became a constant for them, a small glimmer of hope in their turbulent lives. She fed them every day, never asking for anything in return, her empathy overcoming the financial strain it put on her. 2 years passed this way. Cara's shifts grew longer to make up for the extra meals she covered, but she never stopped feeding them, even when her own funds were stretched thin. One night, the teens didn't show up. Cara waited until her shift ended, but they never arrived. Days passed without a sign of them, and she feared the worst, that they had been caught or that something terrible had happened. Finally, a month later, a well-dressed, imposing alien entered the diner, his bioluminescent skin glowing a familiar shade of green. Cara gasped, recognizing Trick, no longer the thin, ragged teen she'd once fed, but a tall, dignified figure dressed in the attire of someone important. "Trick," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. He smiled warmly, his eyes lighting up with the same familiar glow. "Cara, thank you for everything." As she gaped, Rayla and Vin entered, each radiating health and confidence. They looked like leaders, dressed in elegant robes and insignias of authority. They explained that they were not merely refugees, but members of the royal family of their homeworld's governing council. When their planet had fallen, they'd barely escaped with their lives, forced to survive on the streets until they could safely reclaim their titles and rebuild. "We came to repay our debt," Vin said, his eyes shimmering with emotion. "Your kindness saved us, Cara, and now we are here to honor that debt." Trick presented her with a small, silver orb. It glowed as he handed it to her, humming faintly with energy. "This orb contains the wealth of our entire planetary estate," he explained, eyes serious. "It's worth more than all of Earth's treasures combined. And it's yours." Cara was speechless, staring at the orb, then at the 3 young aliens who had become family to her. She shook her head, eyes welling up. "I didn't help you for any kind of payment," she murmured. Rayla placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We know. That's what makes you worthy of it. But please, let us show you the gratitude our people feel. You gave us a second chance." Finally, with tears in her eyes, Cara accepted the gift. The teens, now dignified leaders, embraced her in a final farewell, their gratitude more valuable than the treasure she held. And as she watched them leave, Cara knew that her kindness had not only changed their lives, it had changed hers as well, in ways she could never have imagined.